educated black people confined to the community of Shaw. We had everything we needed here because we were not allowed to go downtown for the dinner or to a movie. But we didn't have to because we had it right here in Washington, D.C. in the Shaw community. And our U Street, where the Chili Bowl is located, was known as Black Broadway because we had 3 theaters there. The Lincoln next door to the Chili Bowl, the Republic in the next block, and the Booker T in the following block. A beautiful, beautiful community. A very strong, dignified, classy, self-supported black community. We had that for many, many years. And then finally, we were going through the Civil Rights Movement. And when we were going through the Civil Rights Movement, we had the pleasure of having Dr. Martin Luther King in the Chili Bowl as he planned that march. I also had the pleasure of sitting with Bayard Ruskin, Philip Randolph, and young John Lewis during that time. It was a real privilege when I look back at having lived in such a proud, self-supported community. We had our own hospital, our own black family-owned bank that's still there today, 89 years later, Industrial Bank, Lee's Flower Shop. Those 3 businesses are still there. And so the strong, self-supported community is now saying, okay, we do need equality. We need to have the privilege of having schools that are as good as the white schools. We need equality. So that brought on the Civil Rights Movement. And when we got into the Civil Rights Movement, and Dr. King shared a story with me about he and his group meeting with President Kennedy, talking about the injustices of black people. And he said he told Dr. King that they planned to bring a large number of people here to protest those injustices. Well, President Kennedy told him, I don't think that's a good idea, because if you bring all those people here and have an incident, it will set your movement back. Dr. King said, there will be no incident. Well, of course, we all know he brought 250,000 people here on the 28th of August, 1963. Ben and I had the pleasure of being there. It was a beautiful day. It was an inspiring day. It was an absolutely amazing day. A sea of people, all colors, all sizes, all backgrounds. And then we came away with, okay, change is going to come. Well, change did come. We passed the Civil Rights Bill the very, very next year, 1964. But then 5 years later, he was assassinated. And when he was assassinated, someone walks in the door of Ben's and says he's been shot. We don't believe that. Not our beloved, non-violent leader. But of course it turned out to be the truth. And when we found out by transistor radio that he was deceased, the tears turned to frustration, the frustration turned to anger, and we literally destroyed our own very wonderful community. That was a very hard time. Ben's Chili Bowl happened to have been the only place that was allowed to remain open during those 3 nights of curfew. That was a very difficult time and a scary time, but we were able to do that. But when the National Guard and the whole thing was over and the National Guard went home, we noticed that the businesses didn't reopen. The middle class moved away. Everybody moved away that could afford to move away. And our beautiful community suffered terribly. A couple of years later, heroin moved in and crack cocaine moved in, and we became a ghetto for a very long time. And then finally, in 1988, the city decided to build a subway system that had been promised many years before. When they did the survey, in our immediate vicinity, only 3 businesses had survived: Industrial Bank, Lee's Flower Shop, and Ben's. Not enough to support 1 lane of traffic out there. there was not one car passing in front of those businesses. I had one employee because when the sun set, we went home. There was no electricity for a good long time. But anyway, we survived, and I think the lesson in that also was the fact that we were able to sacrifice and purchase our own property. That helped us. But in any case, finally the subway opened in 1991, and when it did, they had a big ceremony across the street. I had a big banner put across my chili bowl that said, "We survived Metro." Really, that was a big one. I had one employee. It was really a big one. And then we thought, okay, we're really rolling now. We're really on the ball. We got this wide boulevard, really, and we can make it now. But instead, a few years later, we had the pandemic, and that's how and then we were able to survive that through the support of our community and of those folks that thought the chili bowl meant something to them from all over the country, started sending in their checks. And we were able to take all those funds and make box lunches and serve our guests up at the Howard University Hospital, the people taking care of those folks that were suffering from the pandemic. And now we're still there, but we are now in a well-to-do, very expensive, young, educated community that's not chocolate anymore. And what we're going to have to do is get back to having our own community. I mean, I like the idea of our own community. There's a Chinatown for Chinese people. You know, why can't we? You know, there was a time when you could go to any major city and find your soul food and jazz, right? So we're going to have to educate our young people. We're going to have to let them realize that our culture is so important, that our culture is what built this country. And we have got to come together, support each other, and make it work again.
Thank you so much. Roach, can you go on? Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. I love you, lady.
All right.
That's my mom. We go back over 65 years.
Oh, wow.
When the chili boat opened up in '58, I grew up across the street, behind the buildings across the street in the alley. And the alley was called Temperance Court.
Yeah.
During that time, a lot of us who came up, our families came up from the South, we lived in alleys. And you see the alleys now all over the DC and Southeast, now they call courts. There used to be the carriage houses, the houses where the servants stayed. So we grew up like that, and I knew this lady growing up for a long, long time. And let me tell you something. I've never met nobody with a heart or compassion and sensitivity as Miss Ali. I go by 2-3 times a week. It's over 65 years, man. We've been going in and out of the chili bowl, knowing Ben, the whole family. And let me say this. I had a guy one day who was going to commit suicide. He called me about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And he said, man, I'm on my way down the 14th Street Bridge, and I'm going to jump off the bridge. I said, wait a minute. He said, where you at now? He said, I'm across the chili bowl. I said, stop. Go in there, man, and tell him Roach sent you in there. Somebody talking to him. You know, they went in there and they hired him that night on the spot, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, to keep him from jumping off the bridge. This lady's heart is bigger than all outdoors. As we shared with Dr. Chapman, I grew up on that neighborhood, and it was segregated. We weren't criminals, we weren't thugs, but we had to do wrong in order to live, just to survive. You couldn't get a job. If you got a job, your take-home pay wouldn't take you home. Then they passed a law called a vagrancy statute. So if you was unemployed, you had to get arrested. They wouldn't give you a job. If you got a job, there wasn't nothing to pay you. So they'd lock you up because you couldn't take one of the jobs they offered you in the first place. So this whole situation now, there was no knock law. They didn't need no warrant to come into your house. They knocked the door down, come in and grab any and everybody in there. There was another law back there during that time. They could lock you up and keep you for 3 days and move you from police station to police station. So you could be locked up in custody for a whole month before your family could find you. But we always came across the street to the chili bowl. Upstairs was the Cans bar. And we used to go in and Miss Ali and knock on the door. And the ladies of the evening would be working out of there. And we go down there and get them something to eat, the sandwich, and they pay us a tip. I mean, and we worked all over. And everybody in that neighborhood was hustlers, mama backers, whatever. They all respected her. When somebody treats you as a human being, as a real person, and make you feel good, it makes my hair grow. You know what I mean? Oh, that's good. But in answer to your question, what we can do is what we're doing now. Come together, communicate, and talk. We've been doing this work for 55 years, since 1966. And since you started talking, Mom, it dawned on me that when Martin Luther King and the riots happened in Washington, King's death was my birth. When he died, we had riots in prisons all over the country. I could not believe that they would kill a man who was so gentle and nice and didn't want nothing from nobody but to do what's right. And I couldn't understand that. And the anger and the hurt got so deep that I went off. So we started burning down the prison, setting it on fire. Then they put us in solitary. And while in solitary, I wrote a poem called Christmas in Prison. And when I got out, I took that and expanded it into a play. Then we did a special play called A Tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King, inside of Martin. And when the play was over, they said I didn't write it. So they took my play, took me to the warden's office and said, there's nothing in your jacket that would justify or prove that you wrote this. So they brought in some people from the Arena Stage, Howard University, and Federal City College to read the play and talk to me. And the one guy from Arena Stage, when he saw the play, he stood up and he started crying. He was a director at Arena Stage. And when he saw the tribute to Martin Luther King and how we portrayed how black people were treated, he stood up in the prison and started crying, a white guy. And he said, I've never known what it feel like to be a black man, the N-word. He said, man, and it is an MF. So the play was able to make him feel some of the pain that we felt and the hurt that we're going through. If we don't come together, we're going to lose it all. There's an old saying I say about the elephants. We need to be like the elephants, and we're working like the elephants. We got some of our old elephants in right now. In Africa and India, elephants are destroying villages, trampling people, stomping on everybody, destroying everything in their sight. That's because their mothers were killed for their tusk. So these were orphan elephants going berserk. They went out in the jungle and got 3 bull elephants, old geezers. They brought these old male bull elephants back. And in 30 days, the young elephants got right in line. They was holding each other's tail like they was in Ringling Brothers. They assumed that they need the benefit and the wisdom of the elders. We can learn a lot from animals. And if we don't come together, please, I've been doing this for 55 years, and I hurt. If I wanted to be rich, I wouldn't be doing this. I don't get paid a dime. But I'm the richest guy in the room because every week, every day, I make somebody smile. Every day I make somebody laugh. Of course, I get cursed out every now and then in the course of that. But it feels good. I don't pass a day when I don't make somebody say, Merry Christmas. And it don't mean a holiday. I don't care what religion you're on. When you get something inside of your heart and you can feel somebody else's pain, somebody else's hurt and happiness. And this lady, I love you, woman.
I love you too.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Can you buy?
Wow, it's hard to follow behind you, man. Anyway, my name is Kenny Barnes, and I thank you so much, Brother Khan, for inviting me here.
Thank you for coming.
And I gotta say something. Brother Khan asked me a question on my questionnaire, and it said, who is the person in all the world that you admire the most? Do you remember what my answer was? Brother Khan.
Yeah, of course.
What was my answer?
Mom, Virginia Lee.
Mrs. Virginia Lee.
Yeah.
I see Mrs. Virginia Lee.
Yeah.
The whole world. That's why I'm lost. And when I think about the Ali family, they are the first family to me. They are the first family of Washington, D.C.
Oh, Lord.
But I'm going to talk about a couple of things. We're in a lot of trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. Not only are we in a lot of trouble because they're trying to take us back to 1950. Let's face it, that's what some of these politicians are trying to do. They're saying racist slurs. They're trying to code it. They said populism there. And the words that they use, states' rights. That's what they're doing now. Even though it wouldn't reenact the civil rights movement. If it was up to them, we all would be out of this country. But we got another problem. You see, I had a son that was murdered in 2001. It was buried right there on the 11th and U Street Orphanage. He owned a clothing store. His name was Kenny Owens. And all that he was trying to do was just make a life for him and his family. Right? And so, when you belong to a family like that, you lose your child. There's no word in the world greater than that. I had a press conference on the 11th of the year on the front page of the Washington Post, right in front of the store. And guess who was there right next to me? Mrs. Virginia Lee. Standing right next to me. And everybody on this stage right now, I can tell you, we all work together. And we all work together. And we work together because our children are dying. Our communities are being destroyed. We're overdosing from fentanyl. Kids are being shot every day on the street. It's like this city, but it recognizes what do they want to do? Well, there's lots of more people out there. Why don't we just come lots of more people? And by the way, they started at 5. Started 4 years old, it's not. I'm just kidding. When the problem is really psychological, mental health, public health emergency. And we need to understand, we need to get in front of it. So let me tell you, once again, we have an organization that we started. Myself, Tyrone Parker, Roach Brown, and guess who else? Come on, Army. We meet every Tuesday at Men's Chili Bowl at 12 o'clock. And Miss Ali comes by and speaks to us. And she said, and Miss Ali said, oh yeah, you're the gatekeeper. Right? But we meet every Tuesday. And the name of our organization, it's time for us to get involved. It's time for us to get involved. We're trying to organize the entire city. We're trying to organize non-profits. Because if the city doesn't do it, if the city doesn't want to recognize it, then we have to force them to recognize us. And that's what we're trying to do. So if ever down your street, Tuesday 12, South End, you see all of us. Oh, and then I forgot something. I know Andy Cologne, Andy Brown, Andy, see around me, Andy Cologne. I don't know if he's here tonight, but I just want to say greetings to Andy, another great man and a great friend, fighter in the cause. Anybody want to get in touch with me? Call me, 202-431-6646 if you want to help us. Now, I want to turn it over.
Thank you very much.
To our next
Dr. Chapman. Dr. Chapman. I'm going by the age. I know when each one was born. So please don't mind.
Okay.
I know which one was found
You
when.
learned.
So,
I should be the last one in the group. Unless they're reversing, then they're going backwards.
So now that you told me
Yeah.
where I fit in, I came to Washington in 1964. So that was the year after the March on Washington. I was in Gary, Indiana, watching all this on TV. And I also had a brother who had come to Howard University in 1955. And he would come home and talk about the things that happened in the dormitory and all this excitement in Washington. I was 9 years old, and I couldn't wait to get to Washington, D.C. So I had heard the stories about many of the things that were going on here. So I had the privilege of really learning and reading the newspaper on most of the people at this table. So before I met them, because it was part of my interest in how do you get involved. So I finished undergrad school and then went on to medical school at Howard and graduated in 1973. But again, I had an opportunity to learn from the best. And when I say the best, Dr. LaSalle Lafall, Dr. Syphax, Burke Syphax, Dr. Charles Curry, Dr. Lester Henry. All of these people probably at one time or other ate at Ben's Chili Bowl. And of course, we used to walk over from Howard University to Ben's Chili Bowl up and down U Street. I used to love to go to the Lincoln and Republic theaters because when you went to a movie there, the audience talked back to the screen, just like they were in the movie. So it was, you really felt like it was a part of that. And then, of course, you could go next door to Ben's Chili Bowl and get something to eat. I saw Miles Davis for the first time at the cellar door. But Washington was just exciting. And I got married to a young lady from Washington, so I couldn't leave. So I've been here for actually, this will make 60 years. But I should be retired. You know, this is 51 years out of medical school, but I had instructors like Nathan Hare, who eventually became the so-called father of black studies in undergrad school. And then in medical school, Doctors Elise Galati and Francis Welsing taught us psychiatry. So we had a different perspective on what we were supposed to do and where we were supposed to locate. So I couldn't wait to get on Benning Road and open an office because I felt that's where the action was. Little did I know at that time, but there is a lot of action there. We probably had more overdoses and shootings and stabbings than any place else in the city at the corner of 17th and Benning Road. But 25 years into my practice, I was asked to be the medical director of one of the 3 methadone clinics. And methadone and drug addiction was not something that we really wanted to do. But I got in the methadone clinic, and I tell folks that that's where I really learned to practice medicine, because it was the first time that I no longer was just treating high blood pressure and diabetes. I was treating human beings. And the stories that I heard, the trauma that people went through, multiple generations. I was treating grandmothers and mothers and the grandchild, all in the same family. So I decided that I was going to change that model because I didn't feel that people were getting all the services that they needed. So in 2005, I started treating opioid addiction in my private office. and they sent through a pilot project through the DC Superior Court, and they sent me 5 returning citizens, and all with histories of opioid use disorder. And we started treating patients there, and my partner at the time said you're gonna get frustrated with this because they're not gonna do what you tell them to do. But I can tell you, one of my patients, one of the very first 5 patients, is still with me now.
That's right. That's right.
I got him at age 57. He just had a birthday. He's now 77.
Great man.
And he hadn't been back to the joint or to the hospital in 20 years. So I tell folks that 1 year on the street costs the city about $100,000 per person. So if you count that up, I just saved the city about $2 million with just one person over the past 20 years. And that's the way you really have to look at the return on investment, that taking care of each other. And then he was the one that introduced me to the optimistic gentleman. He said, "Doc, I want you to come over to the house of prayer. We meet every Saturday because I think you can help." And I met Roach, and from there we met the whole crew. See Larry Watson there, Reggie Howard, Horace Fletcher, and on. And we actually were able to bring that together into a communal relationship with healthcare, so that we're now really focused on going after some grants to create community housing, community medicine, community support, and a real integrated community, what we call community-centered healthcare. We don't want to see people homeless on the streets. We think we can take care of them. We know we can take care of them because we've done it. We know that we can turn people's lives around who have been damaged by substance abuse. So this is my second career, and it's what I call the second hump, and I'm enjoying it immensely because of all the people that I've met. Thank you.
Thank you.